So you probably come across a lot of videos, if you're like me, about on time management. Right? There's a lot of talk online on time management, a lot of gurus will talk about how to manage your time. And what I found is that a lot of those are young, a lot of young men, who probably don't have the life situations or circumstances that I'm in, who are not, their lives do not resemble mine at all. So it's kind of hard. I mean, you can get a few nuggets here to help you, but it's very hard to apply that to our own lives when our lives look very different. And the reality of your life, my life, your life in midlife, as in when you're over 45 or in your 50s or 60s, is very different than somebody who's in their 20s or 30s, or somebody who doesn't have kids. Right. So we feel like our days are disappearing. I wake up sometimes and I'm like, oh, it's already Friday. Because like the week just passed me by because of managing a household, building a business, working on the things that I'm working on. It just feels like the day just goes by fast. And you wake up, it's Monday, the next time you feel like you woke up and it was Friday. You are constantly reacting to situations, right? We find ourselves in this place where we are in a mode of survival. There's so many fires that we're trying to put out. There are things happening that we're trying to resolve. Right? So this is kind of how it feels like. Yeah, you're trying to catch up and you feel like you never can catch up. You can catch up with work. You can catch up with the things, family commitments. You can catch up with your kids, their needs and things that they need to do. And you really have no time even for yourself, right? You are just in that survival mode. This is what a lot of times, what it feels like to live in this stage of life we're in, this season we are. And so when we hear people giving us advice, as good as it is, we just kind of brush it aside because it's like, oh, I don't need another time management course. I don't need, I've taken time management courses. I've done all this stuff and still my life looks hectic and crazy. So in this video, what I'm trying to do is not to tell you what to do. Is to simply help you be in a place where you feel like you're in a little bit more control of your day. And we've talked about the foundations or the steps that we have to take as we are rebuilding our lives. And I started off with the removing of the mental overload. And then we went into just closing the tabs in our lives that need to be closed, the mental overloads. And then we looked at what the responsibilities and roles that we are playing and what that looks like, and being able to eliminate some things to make those changes. And so the next thing that we're now addressing is going to be time. What does your day look like? Because you cannot really rebuild a life, redesign it, without actually talking about what your day looks like, what your day-to-day look like. What does your day feel like, look like? What are the things that are happening there? Because this is really the foundation of the time management is, what does your day look like? And then we can build a life from having fixed that, having addressed the day. We can then say, oh, what does the week look like? What does the month look like? What does the year look like? And then what does your life look like overall? Right. So we are starting at the basics of, can you get a hold of your day? Can you control your day? I don't believe we can really, what's the word? And I don't want to sound or whatever here, but I truly believe that we don't have as much control over time as we do in terms of God created time. Excuse me. I feel like my chest is not, I don't know what's going on here. Anyway, my voice sounds a little deep or whatever. It's because I've been fighting something and I don't want it on me at all. My kids, one of my kids had the flu and feel like things have been trying to get on me, and I'm just saying, no, 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 you're not doing this. Anyway, um, I don't believe we can really control something that we didn't create. We can manage it, right? We can manage the time as best as we can. But I totally believe that we are really to surrender time, our time to God, and to have Him help us to manage the time if we're going to be effective in the long run. But there are definitely things that, we can do. There are things that we do is in how we are going through our day. Um, we're not looking for a perfect routine here. We're not looking for, excuse me, oh dear, we're not looking for things to change immediately. We're not looking for things to, I don't know, it's a process, right? It's a process. It's not a, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Sometimes we attack this, and I've done this. We attack time management. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And then you do it for a week or two, and then you get burnt out, and then you stop. We're not looking for that. We really want to start looking at our days, our weeks, our months, and building something. Again, I'm very much about sustainability. What can you sustain? What is the capacity that you have? Not what you think the guru said online, who doesn't have an idea about your life at all, knows nothing about your life. What is it that is sustainable for you? What is the capacity that you have in the season that you are, right? So we are not here to just make all these routines that we can do for a month and then they fell off because we can't sustain them. If we're looking for a long-term kind of solution or way of living, then it has to be something that is very intentional in how we go about managing the time that we have. And also just going in with the fact that we don't know how long we're here, right? And we want to make the best. The whole point of redesigning our lives is that we want to make the best of the time that we have left. We are in the midlife. We are in the second chapter, meaning there's another chapter that is already finished. So we want to try and do things right and do it with intention. Do it with more intentionality than we did before. Right? So what is the way to do it? What is the system of managing our lives so that we're not always reacting? We're not always in a place of, constant survival reaction to things. We are kind of in charge of how the time goes and how our day goes. What is the thing that we can do? We can create a system. We can create what what the day would be, the default day or the perfect day, whichever way you want to name it. So that your day is not decided by all the emergency that is coming. Yes, there'll be emergency. If you have kids, they're going to be emergency. If you have family members, they're going to be emergency. Emergency happens. But we're talking about really planning your day, the day that will be like, this is my best day. This is the day, the way that I want my day. If there are no others, if we don't experience other like emergencies. And so what does your morning look like? Right? Is it you have quiet time in prayer? You get yourself ready, maybe you shower, maybe you work out. You are not immediately reaching out for your phone. You're not in, I'm guilty of that as anybody. Sometimes I'm looking at my phone or looking at emails or looking whatever, and I have to stop myself because these are habits that I'm trying to create good habits. So you have to really be aware of the things that you're doing and you're doing them automatically. Right? So what does your morning look like? Are you going to work? Are you going to your business? What does your morning look like? Are you constantly reacting to things that you see in your inbox? And this, I try not to look at my inbox until later in the mornings or afternoon because I don't want to be reacting all the time. And then what does your midday look like? Right? That's a lot of times you're working. Are you blocking time for focused work? Are you blocking time for tasks, your responsibilities? What are the responsibilities with the family, responsibility at work, in your business? What are those responsibilities? So we are trying to be very clear about our morning, our midday, and then our evening, where we are trying to then reset in preparation for tomorrow. And a lot of times the evenings is dinner with family, school activities if you have kids, family time, playing games. Like for us on Fridays, a lot of times we try to have family time of, either movie nights, with desserts, we either play games, we kind of put a system in place of what we do on weekends with the kids. Because during the school week, a lot of times it's a lot of like after school activities and you're just running back and forth. Right. So we are not here trying to schedule every minute. We are really just trying to define how the day flows. And you can, and I've done this where I've kind of scheduled every hour, and there's a time and place for that. But when we're just kind of starting this process, we are more looking into how does my day flow? What does my morning look like? What does the midday look like? What does evening look like? And how do I prepare for the next day? So I'm not in like crazy states in the mornings. And then you set your day in that way, it's not going to be good the rest of the day. Right? So how do we then protect our time? Right? We have now established how the day is going to work. How do you protect the time? How do you protect yourself? Because if you don't protect the time, if you don't protect the things that you've written down, the whole thing falls apart. It always does. How do we do that? I think the first thing is to stop saying yes to everything. When as women, we tend to say yes a lot. It's learning to say no. And this is one thing that I have learned in my life, that no is a complete sentence and you don't have to explain yourself. Just no. Because you realize that whatever you say yes to is taking time from what actually matters to you. So learning to say yes, learning to say no to a lot of things so you can focus on what really matters. You protect your time also sometimes by just creating boundaries. This is very big in terms of boundaries. We need boundaries to protect ourselves, our emotional health, our mental health. We need boundaries to protect the time. We need boundaries if you're ever going to protect what is actually priority in your life, the things that matter. You're going to need to have boundaries. So we put all the boundaries in place so that we can then be able to do the things that we've written down is these are important to me. This is how I want to spend my day. You have to have boundaries. I would say a good example is us not overcommitting ourselves, right? This is just an example of how you protect your time. Like, don't overschedule, don't overcommit. I think for us mothers and parents, a lot of times we overschedule our kids with activities. And then the whole family is overscheduled because you have to drive there, pick up this one, drop. I know that because I have two boys and they play soccer, and I have a daughter who has activities. And sometimes it is overwhelming because there is a lot of driving back and forth that has to be done. Right? So being aware of, okay, maybe it's just for a season that we are busy like this, and then we take a break, and then we kind of have some calm times at home as a family. I think that's important. Right? So we've put the boundaries in. Now, before we start in a week, and I remember I used to do this, where I would have sessions, and maybe I'll pick that up again, but where I would have sessions of just, on Sundays of sitting down and planning my day, and I would do that on Zoom with a group of ladies that I was working with, and that is so helpful. I found it helpful for myself because even doing it by myself, I sometimes do, but sometimes I don't. But I think having made that commitment that I'll do like an hour on Zoom to prepare for the week. And this is when I was doing just some productivity programs that I had. And it was very helpful because you sit down and you review either on Sunday or Monday night. I think I used to do them Sundays. And I still try to do that by myself, but I'm just saying, having that accountability that I'm hosting this was actually good. And so I'm thinking I might do that again. But having that, just sitting down for an hour and planning the week, what is coming, what are the kids' appointments, what are the business things that I need to attend to, what are the financial stuff for the business, for yourself, for personal, what are the relation, maybe, with your spouse, with some girlfriends, what are you looking to do? And just putting that down on paper is very helpful. And you don't necessarily need a planner. I mean, you can just do that on paper. I do tend to have a lot of planners. I don't know if you're like me. I love planners, and sometimes I have them and then I don't use them. I just like to get them. I don't know why. I guess it makes me feel very productive, even though I might not be using the planner. But it doesn't, you don't need a planner. You can just do this on a Google Sheet or on a piece of paper. What are the priorities for the week? Then we place things in the week so that going forward, we know, okay, these are priorities. These are things that have to be done, the must to do things that have to be done, the things that are important. We put all that on paper. And so we are really living from a place of intentional planning. We're not going into the week rushing. We're not going to the week scatterbrain. We kind of know what is happening. And things might happen in the week, but at least we have a framework. We have kind of a structure of what we know or what we've planned. And that is very important. And so what that leads to then is that we stop reacting. We stop reacting to everything. Because this is where we get derailed, is that we are always in a place of reacting, and then which puts us to where we are perpetually exhausted because just out there reacting to every single thing. When we stop reacting, what we are then doing is, are we batching tasks together? What is the time limit for switching between things? Because the multitasking stuff is not good, and even switching things frequently is not good. We need what they call the deep work, focus work, where you're spending maybe 2 or 3 hours working on just one thing. And that actually helps you better than you scatter things every time, every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, right? We also try to schedule the time we look at our emails. We don't have to look at emails all the time. The time that we say, okay, maybe I'll be on screen looking at whatever, if it's Instagram, YouTube, and kind of start to schedule things. What is the time that you want to read? What is the time that you're spending time with your family? All those things are put in place so that we are not always reacting. We are always not switching back and forth, because that drains you, when you're having to switch from this to that all the time, frequently. So when we are doing this with time, again, like I said, for me, it is also bringing this before God and saying, God, this is the schedule that I have, because I need the grace to follow through with all this. Because we can plan all we want. It's the follow through a lot of times that we struggle with in general. And it's also the follow through, or to be consistent when something throws us off, when an event happens, when this happens, then we find ourselves back to the old routines because we are so used to them. Right? So for myself, I want to be able to ask for grace every day. Say, God, I need the grace to do this. I need grace for everything that I do. Right? The strength, the ability, the wisdom to do the things that I do, to manage my family, to manage my kids, to spend time with my kids, to manage every relationship in my life, to manage the business, to manage everything. We need the grace of God. So we get to a place, I think, when you put this in place in your life, when you implement it in your life, where the day starts to feel calmer, you don't have that overwhelming feeling of being behind all the time. And I do have to make a comment on this, because this really apply. You have to be careful what season you're in, right? So if you're in a season where you have newborns or very young children, a lot of this stuff can be very difficult, right? And you might feel in that season like you are always reacting. And a lot of times you are because you have little kids, right? So it's us being aware. And when I'm talking right now for people in midlife, where the assumption is you don't have the little kids anymore. Most of us, our kids are now in college. Some of us, they're still in school. Some are going to college. So it's a very different season. And I'm saying this in case somebody who's young is watching this and be like, oh, my life is not so organized. No, because we've been there. I have 3 kids. I know what it's like when you have young kids. So it's being aware of the season. And maybe this is what I should have started off with is what season are you in? And be aware of it before you even start all the planning. What is the season you're in? And what does it actually look like? That's why a lot of the advice that gurus can give you online might not work with you because they're not in your season. They're not living your life. So what is the season? And so again, the assumption here is that we are talking to people who are almost 50, over 50, 60, 70, and we are rebuilding, redesigning a life when the kids are a little bit older, right? And that looks very different from somebody who's starting who's young. So this is how we kind of want to plan our time, to manage the time. And again, it's not comprehensive. I'm not covering every single thing. I have things that I've done, just productivity stuff in terms of time management, the 12-hour, the 12-week year. There are all these things that are helpful out there. But we are looking from planning from intentionality to then putting things, the other things follow, they layer on top. But us just going into this slowly with intention before we start applying like the productivity stuff that you can add on to this. But this is what I wanted to talk to you about. And in our next video, I am going to be talking about one of the biggest things, which is finances, right? Because these are things that needs to be addressed as we're rebuilding our lives. Again, we're going through the steps of how, the order of how we what want to do so that we can rebuild our lives. And so in the next video, please tune in. It's going to be on finances, just having financial clarity. Again, when we're looking at all this, we are not saying everything has to be done. You have to attack every single area in detail. And no, we're kind of giving you just the overview, small bites of the actions you can start to take now if you haven't started already. And if you're new here, my name is Janet. Please subscribe to our channel. Would love to have you. Your subscription, your notifications, putting on the notifications, your thumbs up, all that stuff really helps on YouTube. So subscribe if you're new and share with your friends and family, other women out there who are in this stage of their second chapter. And also join our community. The link is in the description. I look forward to talking to you. Bye.